Shalom Chavrim, I'm Stephen DeNoon. You're watching Israeli News Live, and friends, there are a lot of things happening in the Middle East right now. Very, very troubling situation. Not to mention, too, we got these hurricanes barreling down towards the United States. Just a quick thought about that there. Do keep in mind prayer for those on the east coast of the United States, North Carolina, South Carolina, probably even D.C., just depending on where this one hurricane, what is that? I believe the name of that one there is, oh goodness, pulled a blank on that. But anyway, you guys, Florence, there we go. I knew I'd get it in just a second there. Florence, coming in with already a Category 4 hurricane, went very short period of time. I think it's Isaac is the other hurricane that's actually headed towards the islands, especially our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico. Keep those in your prayers as well. These people have already suffered tremendously, and the aid for them from the last hurricane that they suffered has never really come to them the way it should have. So let's pray that hurricane does not strengthen and get any worse. Guys, it's very serious broadcast this evening, and I am recording this as well in the event we get knocked off or we have to find other ways to load this. And when I say that, I'm saying this, and I'm going to bring out the news clip on this here in just a little bit. The Syrian YouTube channels, Syrian state TV, Syrian government, the presidential site, have all been taken down from YouTube. Let me now. Does that tell you something right there? That is propaganda. And that is, what would you call it? That is, you know, I wish I was just really good with verbiage sometimes. That's targeted propaganda, forcing a narrative upon the people to believe only what comes out of the West. And that's sad, because when I look at the news, I look across the whole spectrum to get an idea, to gauge what is really going on. And we reported the other day about 200 U.S., UK soldiers being trapped in Idlib. And I just happened to catch Blackstone Intelligence making a comment just maybe right before coming on the broadcast here. And his video title, and I saw it on Twitter, someone had shared it on Twitter, that's where I've seen it at. He was talking about this, and in the title of his video, he was speaking about how that he believed that this was, I'm just trying to remember the title of it, so forgive me there, what he is really believing is that the U.S. soldiers, British soldiers, are being used as bait, so to speak. But you're going to find out a lot more what's going on in that area tonight, and so get ready. Let's just get ready. I'm trying to get my mind focused because several things have happened just before I came on the broadcast here. I want to share with you. I'm going to start with Fox News here. This is something that a lot of Americans really kind of depend on, and when it comes to mainstream media, I guess Fox is probably a little better than most, but nonetheless, it's still propaganda, and I realize Russia has their propaganda. Israel has theirs, the Arab nations have their propaganda. But you know, in the mix of all the propaganda, there's always some truth out there. For example, in Turkey, before the Turkish government staged their own coup in order to be able to do away with all of the, wow, boy. Guys, I'm sorry. We need to stop for just a moment. We got to look at this seriously. Erdogan, the president of Turkey, what happened in Turkey is an example of what's going to happen in the United States, here in our own country. And I'm so afraid, friends, you're not paying attention to what's going on. And maybe I'm not either. Maybe I'm really taking our liberties in this country for granted. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the president of Turkey, when he was prime minister, he was heavily involved with the U.S. CIA smuggling in the sarin gas from Benghazi. Seymour Hersh and another journalist had actually revealed what they called the rat line and how this was being smuggled into there. Sorry, I'm about ready to sneeze. Jeez, too much going on. And jeez, I don't have a napkin. Yeah, I do. Got one right here. So forgive me there. But Erdogan was heavily involved with the CIA to smuggle the sarin gas into through his own country to get it inside of Syria to be able to use it against the Syrian government, President Bashar al-Assad, back in 2013, in order to justify U.S. intervention, NATO ally intervention into the country. This was something that he was heavily involved in. The Free Press of Turkey revealed that information. Not only did they reveal the information, but also, as we learned from Aaron Erdem, who appeared on RT News, as well as you can watch still freely the transcripts. I've copied it just in case they do ban it from YouTube. But he literally holds up the indictments right before the cameras. The police reports where the Turkish government was investigating the smuggling of sarin gas by governmental employees, directed by the hand of Erdogan himself when he was then prime minister, to be given to the ISIS militants that would later take it into the country. How the strings were pulled, where all the cases were dropped, and these militants were allowed to enter into Syria, and not long after that, the gas attack of 2013 that killed a couple of hundred people, including many children and women, was then blamed on Bashar al-Assad. That narrative has never changed. But one thing that Erdogan does when he speaks about this, and this is what I really want you to think about here, guys. Erdogan, he shows the newspaper article with Erdogan's name on it, and how the media was speaking about what Erdogan had just done. They had exposed the prime minister of the crimes against the country, against humanity. The newspaper, the reporter that wrote the article was arrested. It was later said, and Aaron Erdem says this before the Turkish parliament, that what he did was not a lie, but it was the fact that he disclosed a state secret. So the state secret was that Prime Minister Erdogan was working to facilitate a sarin gas attack on an independent nation, the country of Syria, to intentionally inflict harm and death on a civilian population. The evidence is greater. So I don't care what Heather Nauert, I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name or not, at the State Department, what she has to say, or Nikki Haley, or anybody else that tells you that Assad gassing his own people, there's no more argument. That's a flat-out lie. But what I wanted to point out to you guys that I think is so serious before we get into this news here is that what I see that happened in Turkey is coming to America. They staged a coup in order to justify Erdogan to be able to declare a martial law for a temporary period and to round up all those journalists, all that independent media, so to speak, which in their case they weren't independent media, they were actually news organizations and bona fide journalists that did have freedom of speech of some sort in Turkey. And he rounded up all the opposition, including government officials, and he arrested them and put them in prisons. Shut down newspapers, shut down television stations. Totally brought the Turkish government under a dictatorship. This is where we're going in America. And even like the situation we see with Alex Jones, it doesn't matter if we agree with Alex or not. That's just one step, one person of an independent media that had a freedom of speech that has been silenced. And even now, YouTube has shut down all Syrian state media, which tells us that what? They are definitely planning a strike on the Syrian government. Now, my concern is, even like myself, I'm not pro-Syria, I am pro-truth. And it doesn't matter which direction the truth takes you, just take the truth and tell the truth. This is why I've been passionate about this issue over Syria and them using chemical weapons, because in every single case thus far, the evidence has been overwhelming in the direction that our nation has been feeding us propaganda. And if it was the other way around, because believe me, back in 2013 when I was doing broadcasts then, I was all for Obama bombing Syria and taking Assad out. I was verbal about it. I was public about it because I thought he really did gas his own people. I was believing the same propaganda that so many of us today believe. Now we're down to what they call the final showdown of the terrorists that have been waging war against the Syrian government, because the majority of them are in Idlib. And of course their families are there. That's the very sad part. They have families there. This is why there could be a great risk of a high casualties amongst the, what we would call civilians. Because these fighters brought their families with them. It's the only way they'll fight the war. So now, Russia and Syria are faced with, to liberate this, they have done many negotiations trying to get them to do a surrender, even allowing them to go to Turkey. Turkey's not going to allow them to come in there. The United States doesn't want them to surrender. And in fact, they begin to execute any of those that were talking about, remotely talking about coming to any kind of cooperation with the Syrian government. They begin to execute them. Let me pull that up real quick there. All right, Idlib, execution. Don't know if I didn't even spell the word right. That's where the problem is. I know they hung them, so let's look up Idlib hanging. Maybe I can pull up, let me see if we're on the latest. I think that's where they're making the gallows in this one right here. Yeah, this is where they actually made the gallows right here in Idlib for this, and they were threatening with hanging on the gallows erected at Idlib town of Haram if details of rebel plot on staged chemical... Okay, no, that's not it. Geez, guys, I apologize. I would be able to pull this up. Let's see. Help me out there, guys. How do you spell execution? That's terrible for me to even have to ask that, but you know, sometimes you got to ask. You have not because you asked not. Whoa, okay, there we go. All right, somebody spelt it for me. There we go. Okay. Thank you, Leo. Blessings to you, my brother, for doing that. All right, so let's get right here, and hopefully I can pull this up because I just saw. Yeah, here it is, right here. Here we go. We really don't want to publish this, but we should, because Eyes on Idlib, HTS, Al-Qaeda and Syria have executed the first group of those who called on reconciliation with Assad. There it is. And this is the right way to do it. They blurred out the faces of those young men that they had actually killed. This is what they're doing. This is what the United States, our government, Israeli government, the Turkish government, NATO allies, UK, France, Germany, etc., all supporting these types of terrorists. I mean, what have we become? What have we come to in this nation when we support these types of people that'll just execute someone because they're trying to bring about peace? I thought that's what you're supposed to do when you're trying to achieve something in a war, is you want to achieve peace as the ultimate goal. But no, like always, they execute, behead children and everything else. I couldn't dare show the full imagery, but just the other day, the video, and I think it's from 2013 though, the Al-Qaeda militants, or Al-Nusra one, I forget which one it was, right there in Idlib province, beheading with just a dull knife Christians. Now, they don't support Christians. They're not fighting for Christian liberty. And anybody that thinks so is a flat-out liar. Even God's Word tells you that, that Damascus, when it falls, that's the stronghold for Ephraim. Why Ephraim? Because it was the Ephraimites, the children from the house of Israel, that believed the report of Yeshua, and the Bible says they came from Syria, and they believed him, and they were healed, every one of their diseases. This is why Paul, the Apostle Paul, written about in the New Testament, is on his road to Damascus to kill all these, or imprison all these Christians over in Damascus, because he had to shut them up. Oldest Christian community in the world. No, we're not supporting them. We're killing them, is what we're doing. Supporting the worst of the jihadists. Now, getting into the news, let's quickly take a look here. Syria, Assad approves gas attack in the Idlib despite warning, report says. This is on Fox News.
It's just not listening. As the offensive starts to gear up, U.S. envoy to Syria, Jim Jeffrey, and other U.S.
Oh, we got to show those white helmets, don't we?
Mounting evidence, Bashar al-Assad has given the green light for his military to use chlorine gas. Twice in the last couple of years, the Syrian government has used sarin against its civilians, despite President Trump promising he would act. And twice, the U.S. has responded, launching Tomahawk strikes.
Again, flat out lies. You know, it's one thing for a journalist to come up here and say this kind of propaganda, but when you have a parliament member with police documentation, with wiretapping of the phones, and the evidence that is presented in the indictments were levied against the very individuals in the Turkish government, as well as the ISIS militants carrying the Syrian gas into the Syria, and what it was planned to be used for, that's your evidence. Not your propaganda machine that lies to the people. So I'm very, and the sad thing is, I got this particular, I got this particular news report. It was a linked article on a Christian site. Actually, all you got to do is hit the reverse arrow right there, right? You know, this is End Times headlines. And I don't fault these brothers and sisters for producing that. Maybe they just don't know any better. Maybe they don't know the whole truth of what's really going on. They just blindly follow any leader we got in this nation that'll spread every kind of propaganda that they can to just justify to go over there and bomb them. So they tell you about how much stocks are owned by the president and his family, and the Tomahawk cruise missiles that are going to blow up the Syrians, and how much of a financial gain that'll be to do so? No, don't tell you that though, do they? Amman News has pointed out, and this came out, friends, 10:35 p.m., huge Turkish army convoy enters Idlib tonight. This is why the U.S. and British forces are not being taken out, because they're coming in to help them out, right? At approximately 10:35 p.m. local time, a large Turkish army convoy entered into Idlib governorate from the Hatayah province, Syrian opposition activists reported. According to these Syrian opposition activists, the Turkish military convoy entered the Idlib governorate and was spotted traveling through the town of Harim, which is in the northern part of this province. The activist added that the distinction of the Turkish military convoy is still unknown. Excuse me, the destination, not distinction. Destination is still unknown. At the moment, however, they are most likely headed towards the front lines in the Idlib governorate. See, Erdogan has already stated that if he moves his troops in there, the Syrian government will stop. Why? Because he's trying to make his false ally with Russia. Like I shared with you guys yesterday, the real fight over Syria to begin with is all about, well, actually I said it about Iran. It's about the Silk Road. Now I realize, I got to be careful here. I'll tell you what, how many of you guys are planning on being in Lebanon, Tennessee? That's east of Nashville for the conference where I'm speaking at this weekend, Friday and Saturday. All right? If you're on the live stream there, just give it a thumbs up. You're planning on being there. You should be there. Because I'm going to be sharing another issue that I had not even spoken about at the conference there. I'm going to be sharing with you information directly from the motherland. Let me just say it like that. All right? Not going to go into it right now. And ain't no telling what's going to happen before that conference even gets started. But let me just say it like that there. Besides my time with the intelligence community here and the things that I can share with you there, the issues that I'll be sharing as well with friends that I had in the Mossad, even the evangelical movement to take you to a new world order. Of course, we're in the feast, so Friday evening we will be talking about Yom Kippur, some of the biblical impacts of Yom Kippur and the days we're living in today. But on Saturday, of course, my wife Yana, she'll be taking you into 5G. And one other topic. I won't speak about that other topic here as of right now, but I'm telling you, you'll want to be there. Stay clear of FEMA camps, by the way. All right? When I say stay clear of FEMA camps, can I just share one thing with you? That's a prized information. Not that you don't know it already, but that's a prized information. Let me explain to you why. Our nation is not going to be spared from a brunt of what happens here. I don't think. That's the information that's been shared with me. All right? By the way, no, that's not an orb you're seeing. That's a little fly come in here. Tried to fly into me. All right? FEMA will act like refugee camps. They will help supposedly displaced families from catastrophe and calamity that strikes our nation. Possibly, let me just say this, possibly. But I hear there's a very great likelihood that can happen here. All right? I'm going to talk about this in Lebanon, Tennessee. But if you know anything, stay clear of FEMA camps. I'll leave it at that. Let's move forward. This is the bombshell from Russia, rusdialogue.ru. It's in the Russian language. You can use Google Translate to translate it. If you have my wife available, then she's able to read it in Russian to confirm the accuracy of the translation. And of course, a few little words it doesn't translate right. So I have that privilege at my disposal when I have need of it. Moscow made a formidable warning to the U.S. about the attack on Syria. The president of the Society of Friendship and Business Cooperation with Arab Countries, Vyacheslav Mutazov, told about the response of the Russian military to Washington's attempts to attack the Syrian government troops. Okay? Now notice the verbiage. Russia is stating, if Washington attempts to attack Syrian government troops, that may not apply to Iranians. It may not apply to particular air defense missile shields. But if they go to attack the troops, as reported on Monday, September the 10th, today, Russian dialogue referring to the PN, Russian Russia more than lucidly responded to the Pentagon's attempts to solve the Syrian issue by force. This was the interview with the journalist told to Mutsav. According to the source, the Russian Federation has many targets located on the territory from the Mediterranean Sea to the Persian Gulf, which are the U.S. military bases and which will be under attack in case of a total aggravation of the situation in Syria. All right? This is what Russia plans on doing, but again, you have to notice the verbiage. Okay? Russia will attack U.S. military bases if a total aggravation of the situation in Syria. Now, I want to make sure we understand something here, guys. I've seen this before with Russia. When this whole issue came up once before, Russia said that as long as the U.S. is not trying to totally wipe out the Syrian government, they would hold back. They would not retaliate against the U.S. forces nor the vehicles in which launched the cruise missiles at the Syrian government targets. And they did not. Other than they did try to take out the missiles. If you continue on in the article, it speaks about how that they would shoot down the missiles. It wouldn't just be Syria this time, it'd be Russia as well. And that they would also target the vessels in which they come from. For this information to come out also raises the stakes of what's going on in the Middle East. All right? We also have the Russian Navy just dropped a bombshell. After their Russian drills are complete, they will not leave the Mediterranean Sea. They will remain in the area until the Idlib government is resolved. Or concluded, formally concluded, as it has been stated by the Russian Federation. This is on fortrus.com. The Syrian army is launching a massive offensive in the villages of Hama and Idlib. That is what is going on right now. If you look at the live view map, bombs like crazy are raining down on the Idlib, on the outer rims of the Idlib province right now, softening up those targets to be able to move in to liberate the city of Idlib. This is what's going on right now. Sputnik is reporting that the attack on Syria's Idlib risks a severe security crisis, quoting Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And this is, of course, we can see because he's moving in his convoys as well to try to stop the Syrian and Russian-led offensive. This is where things can get real dicey real quick. Will cooler heads prevail? Will the battle come to a stop? Will there be negotiations? Will there be surrenders? Will there be evacuations? Or will the Syrian government actually have to forfeit the liberation of Idlib? And you have to understand, we've seen already the photos, as I shared with you a moment ago, the executions of those that just wanted peace with Syria. You know, if I was a Syrian and I lived in this province here under all these terrorists, I would rather my government liberate the city, even if it meant me losing my life. Because your life is already at risk. With thugs that are willing to just kill you just because you want peace. And this is insane, guys. Southfront.org is reporting the YouTube banned Syrian state-run pro-government channels amid expected escalations over the Idlib offensive. They don't want the truth coming out. And I'm sure that's not just YouTube doing this voluntarily. I'm sure that YouTube is under the pressure of the U.S. government or other governments on doing exactly that. This is why you guys need to be aware of the channels we do have, all right? We are on patreon.com/Israeli News Live. We have multiple ways to be able to upload information. Our website, IsraeliNewsLive.org. We have a teaching channel called DeNoon Institute. We have our channel here, Israeli News Live. We have live stream, and I haven't been running on live stream because we've been trying to find a way to be able to simultaneously broadcast. But listen, if they take YouTube down, live stream, Israeli News Live on live stream is our channel. Go there. You know, sign up, become a member, whatever, however you do it. You know, it's kind of like YouTube. You just click on the subscribe to Israeli News Live on live stream. Keep in mind any backup possibility that we have. And as well, support the broadcast. Your support gives us the ability, you know, besides just making it from month to month, we're trying to come up with ways to be able to have alternative ways to get information to you in the event of something like this happening. Alex Jones just faced it himself. You know, we're just as much to be struck down as anybody else, but we're trying to constantly find ways to get the truth out. Now, see, they don't take his website down. And we could possibly turn our website into a live broadcasting station. We would just have to expand the bandwidth on it and find the right help to be able to do this. So keep in mind, your support helps that. And if you can't give on our website, some people they're trying to always stop us any way they can, including the financial side. If you can't give on Israeli News Live on our website there, patreon.com/Israeli News Live. There's a way to donate there, as well as at the end of the broadcast, we'll post our address up as well. You can do it by mail, right? But we have this happening. That's going on. And then on top of it, Russia pointed out something that was interesting. It said Trump did not rule out the possibility of a blow to Russian forces in Syria. And they were quoting this from the article, I think it's the Wall Street Journal, if I'm not mistaken, that they had saw in there, as Trump is talking about what he will do in Syria, that he didn't rule out striking the Russian forces as well. So there's a lot of tensions going on right now. Now, at the end of the day, what's this all about? As I've stated before, what's really going on, it's all about that gas pipeline, the oil pipeline. Why? The oil and gas pipeline is part of the New World Order. It is part of the Silk Road Initiative. It is to be able to shorten the distance that crude oil and gas, the time that it would take to get from the Persian Gulf around Africa or through the Pacific and back up to the west coast of the United States. This is to shorten that time by building the pipeline either to Israel or to Turkey, which originally it was going to go to Turkey. But I know Israel has really pushed heavily for that pipeline too, to be coming through Iraq and into Syria and of course into Israel. Bashar al-Assad would not accept the U.S. plan. They said, Russia's been our ally the longest, we will do it with Russia. Then the war started. Then the civil unrest began. The writing's on the wall, guys. They are going one way or the other. One way or the other. They want control. Because that's the biggest economic gain of the Silk Road, is that oil and gas pipeline. It's not just commodities coming out of China, little toys or military weapons or whatever. You know, the whole thing about the Silk Road is to shorten delivery times, whereas for many years they've been doing this by freighters and ships. And they'll still be using ships, but it's to shorten that delivery time. This is what it all comes down to. I'll tell you a little bit more about these things in Tennessee when you come. All right, guys. I'm Steve DeNoon. You're watching Israeli News Live. I did record this as well in the event that we have any issues with this on YouTube there, on our live broadcast. Looks like our live stream is doing so okay. And there's quite a number of people actually watching, so God bless you and thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. I really do appreciate your help in what we're trying to do, guys. And you know, another thing too that is a great help, thumbs up the video. But there's one other thing you can really do too that can really be a real blessing. Those of you that have blogs, websites, whatever it may be, even your Facebook page, etc. If God lays it on your heart, write an article, write a story in your blog, whatever, and then backlink, link us up to your article, Israeli News Live. You can put Stephen DeNoon, whatever the case may be, but Israeli News Live, note that in your article. And when you link it, especially if you have a WordPress site, something of that similar to that, and you link the name of that website in there, maybe from one of our articles or one of our videos off of YouTube or whatever the case may be, that helps get us up in the search ranking to where more people can hear the truth. Because I'm not here to tickle anybody's ears. If I make a mistake, I'll definitely correct the mistake I made. Just like the other day, I hadn't done one in a while as far as I was aware of, but we had honed in on a satellite view thinking that was the military base at Al-Tanf, and it actually wasn't. It was just to the south of that. And a brother was kind enough to point that out to me, and we wanted to make sure we corrected that. And then at that point, I thought, okay, I'm not going to zoom in on the other one. I know that Lorenzo has shared that on Already Happened. That's on his Twitter account. So if you want to look at it, you can see that. And yes, the airstrips are there, the hangars are there, and we run a lot of drones out of that particular facility there as well as helicopters. But, you know, guys, you know, like I said, if I make a mistake, I'll definitely correct it. I'm not above, we're human, we make mistakes, but I will not intentionally mislead anyone. I will not spread propaganda. I'm just not into that, you know, and you know, we just have to tell the truth the best way we can. Anyway, God bless you. Thank you for watching. Be vigilant, and let us know. Join us over on Twitter as well, guys. Just so you can see there our channel here. Let me get back over to the home page on this. There's several channels out there with my name, different people that had helped me to try to set this up originally, but I'm not on those channels any longer. I don't know what happened there, but some people still run those channels there. But the only channel that I actually run and have control of myself is the one here, Israeli News Live at, and I use the pen name I write my books in, Stephen DeNoon, D-E-N-O-O-N, is the way that I do that there. So you can join us over there. Every once in a while we do also I don't do it very often, I don't do the Periscope very often, but we are getting to that point. We want to do more of that as well, but a lot of troubling issues there is going on. So, but anyway, we do things that we see that are happening because we try to do this in multiple languages. We like to at least reshare things with you guys as well, and occasionally we throw in our own thoughts on there too. And I am writing a little bit more and more here and there on IsraeliNewsLive.org, so do check out the articles that we do there as well. Anyway, shalom, good evening. I don't want to keep you any longer. I've been long-winded enough. Erev Tov.